Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be figuring out what happens if you don't shoot at Micah at the very end of the epilogue in the final mission of Red Dead Redemption 2, American Venom. Now, the point of this video is not to see if we can get like some alternate ending to American Venom. We know what happens. In fact, I've sort of tested this in a fun way in other videos where instead of letting the conversations finish, you end up shooting at Dutch early, Micah early, what happens, and it is pretty interesting. Today, we're going to be figuring out what happens if you simply just don't shoot at Micah. So in case you guys have never played the mission American Venom, it essentially starts with John Marston approaching Micah's hideout. He looks around for a little bit, Micah ends up coming out, and then there's like a little sequence where you're not in a cutscene, where you're supposed to like fire back and forth at Micah, and there's no way to kill him here. In fact, the only thing that can happen is if you expose yourself to him, is he'll end up shooting you and you will die. So you sort of have to be careful. But this is where our experiment will begin, because this is where we are going to see what happens if you do not shoot at Micah, because something pretty strange occurs, and we also get some extra lines of dialogue. Take a listen to this.
I got more men coming, John. You should run away.
I look forward to meeting them.
Run while you can, John. It's your only hope.
I'm just fine here.
I wouldn't back shoot you. No.
You won't front shoot me neither.
You never was the strongest, John.
Yeah? But I'm the only one left.
Arthur could have had this cash. It's yours now.
Yeah, he coulda. But he knew some things was worth more than money, Micah. Same as me.
You're a thief, ain't ya? Now, come and take the money.
I will. Just you watch me.
Cold, hard cash, Marston. I know you ain't perfect. You ain't changed.
I ain't perfect. That's why I'm here.
All that cash, all them jobs. It's yours if you want it.
I want it. And something else besides.
You're gonna die, Marston. Weak and stupid. That's you. If you're staying, you're dying.
Okay, so by now I'm sure you've noticed a couple of things. Number one, if you do not shoot at Micah, he will stay behind that little pillar of the hideout forever. So apparently he has infinite ammo in his 6-chamber revolvers that he can just keep reloading and reloading and reloading. And we also get some additional lines of dialogue that are also really cool. Micah actually brings up Arthur, which I thought was kind of interesting. He specifically says Arthur could have had this cash, but it's yours now. And then John says something interesting. Said, yeah, he could have, but he knew some things was worth more than money, Micah. So that's really cool. Not only does it speak to, obviously, the way John viewed Arthur and his character, but it's also kind of interesting that Micah, once again, brings up Arthur, who at this point has been dead for several years, like 7 years by now. Micah also mentions a ton of jobs that the gang did together, presumably even some that we did not get to see during the game. I would imagine that would be Blackwater and even before that, when we know Micah actually joined the gang. And the reason we know that is because it would have had to been within 6 months-ish before the start of the game, because we know Micah only joined the gang about 6 months before that. Now, even though this next bit is completely unrelated to the mission American Venom, I feel like it's important to tie this whole story together. We actually get some details from a campfire encounter that you can have in-game, where Micah actually reveals how he met Dutch and how he ended up joining the gang. Take a listen to this conversation right here.
You know, Micah, you got a mighty big mouth. But you've never told us where Dutch met you.
Micah? He crawled out of the outhouse one day and Dutch was so amazed he asked him to stay.
I like that. Well, where was it? I heard all you fools drone on. I mean, you ain't fools, but you sound foolish. I like Dutch, but he didn't save my life. I saved his. Maybe he never told you, but fact is, I stopped him getting killed in a bar fight in Crenshaw Hills. He's trying to sell some gold you boys had stolen, annoyed some locals. So, I saved his life. No. No, that ain't true. Ain't it? Why? 'Cause I need to sit around and boast about things I made up 'cause I failed fighting Redskins, that's so? Good day, gentlemen.
So from what I just heard, it seems as if Micah ended up meeting Dutch in a bar in Crenshaw Hills, and he saved his life because Dutch was trying to sell some gold to some locals. Now, that's the story that Micah tells. I'm not exactly too sure how true that ultimately is. We know that Micah is prone to lying and being deceitful, so that just might be a story to make himself look a whole lot better. But that's really the best explanation that we get. Now, in case you guys are wondering where that location is, Crenshaw Hill, unfortunately, it's nowhere on the map. Apparently, it happened during the North Grizzlies expeditions, so we would have to get a Northern Grizzlies map in order to find it. So it is a unmarked location in the world, but it is referenced. And I don't know about you guys, but to me, this just reinforces the fact that I think there is a lot of story left to tell that Rockstar hasn't explained in Red Dead Redemption 2. I would like to see a prequel to what happened before the actual game starts. So I'd like to see how Micah ends up joining the gang. I'd like to see what happened at Blackwater. I'd like to see maybe Arthur going back and burying Eliza and Isaac, because we know he does that at some point. So I feel like there is so much story left that Rockstar could tell. So again, it just begs the idea that there needs to be a single player expansion for this game, just because there's so much story that's untold. Now, before we move on, I wanted to also add this. In the credits of the game, you guys know I've been going back and sort of reviewing that in some recent videos. You can actually find Agent Ross and the other Pinkertons coming up to Mount Hagen and finding Micah Bell's body. So that's kind of interesting. We don't know what they did with the body, and I think it's clear that they just left it there. I don't think they were too bothered to bury this outlaw that they had been hunting for years on end now. But I thought that that was kind of interesting that they eventually did make the journey up to Mount Hagen. So word must have gotten to them that something happened to Micah Bell. And that makes sense because then there was a newspaper article written about it that confirms his death as well. So kind of interesting. Again, I'm not sure if it ties everything together or not, but it's kind of a fun fact that you might not have known about. Now, what's also kind of interesting is once you get Micah to move from location 1, which is behind the pillar of that little tower, he moves into this little half shack that's in between the outhouse and that like fire cooking pot. Again, you have to do the same thing here. You actually have to shoot at him, otherwise he's not going to move. He's going to stay behind that location the entire time. And wouldn't you know, the second you just like look up and aim at him, he ends up moving out of the way behind the outhouse. And then, of course, that's where Sadie Adler ends up coming up behind him and ambushing him. So either way, I thought this was incredibly cool. It gave us some more backstory on Micah, but I feel like there is so much left still to discover. So I'm really hoping that Rockstar dive into his backstory, how he entered the gang, and much more. But I guess we can only hope for a single-player DLC in order for that to happen. But anyways, that's all the information that I've got for you guys in this video today. Hopefully you did enjoy. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of the extra lines of dialogue that Micah said? And do you think that Rockstar will do a single-player DLC geared towards a prequel and how he and Micah and the entire gang ended up coming together? Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.